Well, nothing's up at the moment, but the TV sure is reacting weird. And together, we're locked in this weird digital realm and forced to make a video about some guy's past or something. And yeah, that's my review of Sonic Quest, weird shadow person. Can we go home now? How handy you can just bring comics in here. Oh? Fuck. Endgame is a huge waste of pages if you ask me. It's not very well written, it's overhyped as hell, and it's got Ken's fingerprints all over it. Oi! What did I tell you about focusing too much on the writer? It's not the best, but it's the ending us SatAM fans had been asking for. I can appreciate a damn good story, so that's why I should be the one to review it. Like arse you will. I hate it more, therefore I should be the one to review this issue. All of this. I'm gonna prove how overrated it is. Okay, I'll be harsh but fair. Or we can take turns reviewing issues. You haven't let me collab with you for ages. Fine, we'll be good. Wait, I'm from where? You better elaborate on whatever bull you just said, because if it concerns where the hell I'm from, later, my cliched other self. Right now, we have to talk about nerd things. Fine. Whatever. Sorry about that, folks. Before we get into the Endgame saga, allow me to talk about the lead-up to the original finale of the comics run. Who the hell are you talking? The Sonic the Hedgehog animated series, known by fans as Sonic SatAM due to how it aired on Saturday mornings, was this pretty neat cartoon about a fluffy cast of characters fighting back against a planet-conquering dictator and his army of robots. Now, that story might appear pretty basic, but the show really resonated with a lot of fans. It's a cult classic for a reason. It spawned a spin-off comic in the meantime, one with a much more light-hearted tone, with the only similarities being the characters and the basic premise. Everything else, frick, I don't even know. In its early years, it was helmed by writer Mike Gallagher, the Pungeon Master who gave us Betty Butterfly, Caveman Sonic, and the Mecha Madness saga, funnily enough. But another writer who came along, seemingly out of nowhere, was Mr. Ken Penders, who, let me say this now, he sucks. His writing sucks, and he's just a sucky human being in general. But like him or not, he did create a lot of staples in this spin-off that would shape the way for the comic's future, as much as I dislike the dude. Where I'm getting to is, the Saturday morning cartoon got cancelled, its pitch for a third season being outright denied by the network. I could make a whole video on all the ideas they were planning to introduce here, but I'll rein myself back a bit. Put simply, the show didn't end on a very satisfying finale for some fans, who would then flock to the comics for some SatAM action, and sure enough, they got what they were looking for. The comic soon became less goofy and weird, and kind of moulded itself into a more recognisable product. SatAM was back, it was strong in sales and praise from the fandom, and disregarding most of those damn spin-offs, it made Sonic fans the world over happier than ever. Archie Comics though, regardless of the traction they were getting, still planned to have number 50 be the final issue in this crazy comic book. The TV show had long ended at this point, so I can see why they came to that agreement, and Ken, seeing what was coming on the forefront, was the main writer hired to plan out this comic's end. Though the other comics writers gave in their input too, and by other writers, I mean every writer on the planet. Endgame was the name given to this final story arc. It was hyped up to hell and back as the final confrontation between Sonic the Hedgehog and the fat bastard who made 99% of the world's population into shiny Namco toys. It really was quite the spectacle, and even today issue number 50 is still considered one of the best entries in the early comics, at least according to what fan letters said at the time. Upon publication, the Endgame story arc received mixed to positive reviews, with fans noting scenes of the main hero becoming a fugitive again, the dramatic shift in tone that heralded dark things to come, and the prominent death of not only the main villain of the series, but also the beloved heroine of the Freedom Fighters, Princess Sally Acorn. Oh, Sally. Poor Sally. It was entirely Ken's idea to kill her off, for a multitude of reasons really, but I won't get into them now. But fans hated it, almost as much as Sega's American branch, if you can believe it. And since she was quite popular and a potentially marketable character, the higher-ups were like, no, put that stuff back where it came from, or so help me. And her death was undone in the very next issue. It didn't help that the comics were soon reinstated, allowing them to continue after the 50th issue, which really put a hamper on the whole finale of the series thing, huh? Issue 50 was also supposed to be a grand 40-page special, but it was cut down to a measly 27 pages. This was entirely out of Ken's hands, don't get me wrong, but it didn't do much for the comic's quality in the long run. I, like many others, kinda look back on the Endgame saga in low regard. It didn't need all this talk of war and dark themes, it didn't need Sonic's friends turning on him, and it definitely didn't need a fake-out death scene with a beloved Sat-AM character. But that's the prime reason I'm looking at this comic again. Does the Endgame saga hold up in the present day, where Archie Sonic isn't a thing anymore and the series has moved on to bigger, better things at this point? Well, considering this video's length, I'm willing to bet I'll find the answer soon. And before I get into that, it must be noted that for issue 50, I'm looking at the director's cut from the Supersonic Special issue 6. The original version never got a reprint, but I'll be sure to point out any differences between that and the director's cut. Old published work deserves love too. Well, buckle up, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, and hold on to your butts, mothers and f***ers. In this video, we're going to take a look at issues 46 to 50 of Archie Comics' Sonic the Hedgehog series. Story 1, Countdown to Armageddon. This issue starts off with a brief flashback showing Sonic's Uncle Chuck testing out his roboticizer on his brother. The thing's supposed to prolong their lifespan, but instead it turns him into an evil-looking robot. He's even got the same face as Sonic when he got roboticized, and that's relevant because this guy is actually Sonic's father, but we're not meant to know that yet, so shh. This turns out to just be a hologram projection of Uncle Chuck to showcase the origin of the device Dr. Robotnik used to transform most of Mobius into his slaves. It's in this callback that we are told the villain's first name, Julian, like in the cartoon, and how Uncle Chuck feels wholly responsible for the loss of millions. The guy doesn't feel like he's been doing a good job as a spy for the freedom fighters either. Not like his nephew really cares, he's just scoffing down chili dogs while his uncle wallows in regrets. But no time for that, it's time to meet that other group of freedom fighters from the cartoon. Meet the Wolf Pack, a small group of Mobian wolves consisting of Lupe, their brave leader, Drago, the loudmouth of the group, and nameless background dudes. While the groups update each other on the villain's plots, Drago is quick to judge them for having a roboticized Mobian on their team. But before Sonic can get into a scuffle with his latest rival, his other rival comes in to make things worse. Excuse me, sir, kindly stay away from the underage girl. Jeffrey St. John is here to further criticize Uncle Chuck for his failure to notice spies in the past, and accuses him of being one himself. This paints the Robian in a rather guilty light. These accusations against Uncle Chuck working for the bad guy get Sonic riled up, and the two begin to argue once again, which leads to an awkwardly drawn fight scene where the two have a quick throwdown, ending with the Hedgehog being held at crossbow point by the skunk dude. Thankfully, Sally breaks them up from actually Antoine is the one to knock some sense into him, who feels particularly insulted about the idea that Uncle Chuck was a spy for Rebel Underground. As it turns out, it was Antoine's old general dad who founded Rebel Underground, and was the one to personally suggest such an organisation. But before he could lead it, he ended up being a casualty of war, which really begs the question as to why Jeffrey claims to be its leader. As far as I know, this is never brought up again, but I assume the king just gave him ownership or something. Antoine and Jeffrey get into a big fight. Good thing Sally is here to save the day and break them up from fighting once again. Geez, it's like the only thing these writers use her for. While the infighting is sorted out, a bunny robot brings up Antoine's past, and how his misguided love led him to try and win Sally's hand, even though clearly she and Sonic are more of a thing. Antoine also apparently saved Bunny's life at one point before they met, which, are we really just gonna gloss over that? While Antoine is off moping in the woods after leaving in a huff, Bunny soon joins him and tells him how brave he is. She even gives him a kiss on the cheek. Yeah, it's super lovey-dovey and cheesy, but their romance has been quietly built over a couple of issues, so it doesn't come out of nowhere. And meanwhile, on the other side of the woods, Drago is being called out for being a shifty bastard, leaving the group under the other wolves' noses. These heated arguments quickly have Antoine and Jeffrey at each other's throats again, and the story ends with, what else? Sally breaks them up from fighting once again. At this rate, she really is the glue keeping these alliances together. Story number 2 is Knuckles going on a quest for the Sword of Acorns. It's not all that interesting on the long run, it's just an excuse for Ken to have Knuckles punch one-off characters in the face. So if you don't mind, I'm going to skip this one. Okay, your turn, Auntie. Tag out. Woo! You what? Bitch, you gotta review this issue first. Think of the runtime. Oh, cripes, you're right. Okay, here we go. Issue number 46 was filler. It sets up and introduced characters who would be important to the Endgame saga, but that's all it really did. I felt the introduction to roboticization and Uncle Chuck's connection to it were quite overdue, but I guess it's better now than never to catch up on what the Sat.AM cartoon did with ease. I did like how it elaborated on his past and how he went from a high position in the royal family to a simple hot dog stand owner. It kind of pains me to see all this character and motive get taken away later when the dude is just a voiceless background character, taking a backseat to others only now introduced for the sake of future plot points. Another character moment I really liked was Antoine showing some shades of his character that not even the Sat.AM cartoon cared to elaborate on. Supposedly it's the dude's failure in stopping his dad from being roboticized, and the lack of success in courting Sally that led to his cowardice. And his moment with Bunny, where she shows him that regardless of all his losses, she still cares for him, it's too heartfelt to hate over. I'm a simple man. If I see pages dedicated to couples counselling each other and giving emotional support, my heart just goes weak AF, alright? Okay, onto stuff that I really didn't like. I didn't think the reader needed reminding that these two hate each other. It's been established in previous stories. At least his suspicious actions aren't completely overlooked, as there's one panel where he gets called out by one character. Drago is being built up as a shifty Robotnik sympathizer, but he doesn't get any character moments. In fact, none of the Wolfpack gets much focus, except to be the backdrop of the cast's various scuffles. At least in the cartoon, they got an episode to themselves before being reintroduced in the finale. In the comic, it's just, hey, check it out, it's the Wolfpack, TM. It smells pretty lazy to me that these guys weren't given much focus in comparison to the Sonic-Jeffrey rivalry. In the beginning, we got to see how Uncle Chuck felt about creating the device that inevitably doomed most of Mobius. He poured his heart out to the freedom fighters and shared memories he himself was transmitting through his creepy robo-eyes. And yet, all that was on anyone else's mind was, hey, you guys got any popcorn? Why weren't the others more sympathetic to his experiences, I gotta ask? Even when he is accused of being a spy simply for being a Robian, the other characters don't seem to care very much. Even his own nephew. You can make the argument that they're just kids, and that they wouldn't care so much about these subjects, but they've been living through a war. I wouldn't think about it too much, because it certainly doesn't seem like the writers put much thought into it. The art was okay. Nelson Ortega does a better job at making mood pieces than drawing characters in them. They would often be off-model, and you'd be lucky to see any background with actual depth or more than one colour. Though I did warm up to the cosy campfire setting. It really feels like the calm before the storm. And the less I talk about the Knuckles quest storyline, the better. I'll give it a 4 out of 10. I really wish it wasn't simply filler for later, more important moments. Woo, your turn, Auntie. I regret this already. Finally, we're on to the good stuff. Time to show you just how good this Endgame thing really is. Issue number 47, Taking the Fall. The Knothole Freedom Fighters begin their operation to infiltrate and take back Robotropolis, beginning with Sonic and Sally speeding up the city's control center. The other teams, including the Wolfpack from earlier, are keeping watch and waiting for their signals. Dr. Quack, why the hell are you here? You don't even know how to fight. While the others wait with varying degrees of patience for the two to do their thing, Sally is overcome by feelings, or is it a premonition? They're coming to the end of their adventure, and yet she feels that there are still questions to be answered, like why is her father, the king, being an utter arsehole lately? That's to be expected, as the comics really play up the character's jerk-ass tendencies, but it really comes to a point when he accuses Sonic of being a traitor. Sonic the Hedgehog, you know, the boy who saved your sorry butt? Apparently that's the reason Sally is even sticking by the blue blur, because her dad yelled at her and forced her into testing her friend's loyalties. And also because it's later revealed that King Max isn't quite himself, but I don't care. Meanwhile, while Sal and Sonic sneak into the main building, Dr. Robotnik and a strangely cat-smiled Snively are watching their every move. It seems like it was a big mistake hanging onto the edge of a building like that. Why the hell was she even doing that in the first place? But the other freedom fighters aren't just gonna stand around. In fact, Rota pulls out a big fucking gun to harmlessly shoot down the turrets and thankfully not harm Sally in the process. This gun was also brought up in a previous issue. I guess it's nice to finally get some use here. Antoine continues to assess the situation and soon spots Sonic at the top of the building. And it seems the princess is saved. The heroes celebrate as Sonic heroically looks down at his helplessly dangling friend, takes out a knife for some reason, and... Fuck! The freedom fighters spring into action, Bunny Rabbit being the first to go in with leg extensions and pick up the fallen leader. But she is met with heavy resistance, though it's nothing the Wolfpack cannot handle. While the good guys torch some SWAT-bots, the bad guys gloat about finally killing a child on their premise. But that all comes to a stop, because Sonic's here, unaware of the fate of his friend, and Robotnik has laser beams distract the Hedgehog, while we witness another case of the villain exit stage left. The evil duo go down a slide for a mood-breaking spot of humour, while Sonic deals with the laser blaster. And when that doesn't work, Robotnik just decides to blow up the entire command center as a backup plan. While the heroes look on, the suddenly very useful Dr. Quack whips out his skull calculator and concludes that Sally is still alive, but only barely. With the Wolfpack securing their escape, the freedom fighters retreat back to their, 7-seater plane to flee back to Knothole, with Tails being the only one to voice their concerns for Sonic, the supposed traitor who got Sally killed. Speaking of which, he only just misses the plane take off, and, confused and uncertain as to why he was left behind, speeds off in the same direction. That bird looks like he came out of a Dr. Seuss book. Meanwhile, Dr. Robotnik and Snively arrive at a backup headquarters underneath the city. It's currently left uncertain as to what they plan to do down here, but they are going to watch something on the TV. I don't know, maybe he's going to binge Riverdale on Netflix or something. At the same time that is going on, the freedom fighters are at the Knothole Medical Center, where they get the news that Sally, supposedly, has died from her injuries. Tears are shed by everyone in the room. Well, this is awkward. I sure hope something dumb and repetitive can break the tension. So Sonic is here, again, but he is not greeted by friends this time, only bitter enemies. Jeffrey is here, suddenly? Or was he in the last panel? Yeah, Sonic gets arrested and is dragged away to be put in hero jail or some crap. Jesus Christ, every frame is a painting in this case. Just down the street, Drago Wolf arrives at his Knothole home, which is apparently the secret life the other members of the Wolfpack were asking about. He's just living here with his girlfriend, Hershey, and he pours himself a glass of milk or something, while laughing maniacally about his secret plans. Hey, that's relatable, right? I do that all the time. This issue ends with Sonic being brought before the entire town, where the king himself makes an announcement. Had it not been for his services, the Hedgehog would have been given the freaking death penalty. Instead, the dude's gonna be taken to the Devil's Gulag for a lifetime sentence, which the villains watch on a live feed and snigger about it. Will Sonic find a way out of this predicament? Does Robotnik now know of the location of Knothole after all these years? All and more will be answered in the next bunch of issues. You know, I'll give it this. This issue did a terrific job at building up tension and raising the stakes. Too long had this comic just had the bad guys be incompetent boobs and be terrible at their jobs. It's nice to see Dr. Robotnik and Snively be just as threatening and slightly goofy as their cartoon counterparts, and not leaning too much in the silly or serious. Also, it may just be me geeking out, but I was ecstatic that they were finally entering that iconic main building from the cartoon. You know, that big, vaguely egg-shaped structure that is always shown in overview shots. They really saved it for a good arc, didn't they? Also, dare I say it, Penda's melodramatic writing fitted more naturally in a story like this. The dude loves his characters spouting exposition all the damn time, but for the stories of infiltration and mild intrigue, sometimes you just want to see characters act dramatic for the sake of it. I can't say the same for the dialogue itself, though. He sure does enjoy giving speech bubbles random bold words for emphasis. It gets pretty ridiculous, and just to prove how ridiculous it is, I'm going to do the honours and read some of them out to you, because I have nothing better to do on a Friday night. There's our target for tonight, Sonic. Are you sure you're up to it, Sal? I can't blame Antoine for being edgy, though. Waiting around can be such a killer. There she is, Snively, the apple to her father's eye. And so predictable as well. Exactly on time. If I were a nice guy, I wouldn't do what I'm about to do, but I'm not a nice guy. That last one is a pretty rad quote, unironically so, but it's really ruined by the numerous bold words. I felt later issues handled the fonting better than now, where Penda's wasn't a writer. One thing that I liked in concept, but also got pissed off about in execution, was the literal execution of Princess Sally Acorn. To raise the stakes, yeah, having a character be fatally injured works pretty well. It's to put you on the edge of your seat before the final battle later on. I can respect how serious this comic treated death, especially if you were a young child reading this, but I don't like how they actually killed her off at the time of publication, nor do I particularly like Penda's reasoning for doing so. My counterpart brought it up earlier, but Ken Penda's reasoning for killing Sally off are perhaps just as looked down upon as Endgame itself. Not only did Sega feel her unnecessary as a character because her father King Max was back in power, and, you know, he was the new de facto leader of the heroes, and because Penda's Princess Sally miniseries sold poorly because it was a badly written piece of shit, but also because the latter felt she made Sonic the sidekick and kind of cramped his style? What the f*** are you talking about, man? Sally being the foil to Sonic's cool 90s attitude was their whole dynamic for most of the original cartoon. It might have been her overarching story that drove the show, but Sonic was always the centre star and was given the most screen time. But regardless of that, you Pendas saying that that was enough of a reason to go, oh yeah, Sally keeps making him appear uncool. Time to drop her off a tall building and make her death a reason for the comic to become even more melodramatic. I'm a successful writer, guys. I didn't like that one bit. And final or not, the leader of the freedom fighters being killed off from simply falling from a great height is so unceremonious and anticlimactic. I don't care how much it was foreshadowed in passing dialogue. It's a shitty way to kill off an iconic character, and considering how later issues retconned it as a fake-out death, it really wasn't needed at all, except for slapping it on the cover. The penciling, I'd say, was some of Art Mawhinney's best. The dude sure does know how to draw the city's dazzling heights and the characters' shocked expressions without making them off-model. Even the wolf pack didn't look too bad, and this all makes sense when you remember that Mawhinney was formerly a storyboard artist for the original cartoon. I think the only panel I raised an eyebrow at was this one, with everyone's wide-eyed looks, and Hershey having only one default facial expression throughout her first appearance in the comic book. But my gripes aside, I do think this issue did a good job at building up suspense. Bad writing aside, it gets a 6 out of 10. An average but really impactful issue overall. Your turn, you sack of crap. I'm not a sack of... anyway. Okay, issue 48. Literally Sonic the Fugitive. I like what they did there on the cover, that's pretty clever. Hope you guys are ready for some melodrama, because boy howdy this issue is packed to the brim with it. So Sonic's being taken off to the Devil's Gulag, a prison complex that has been defunct since the end of the Great War, and while Uncle Chuck is there to vouch for him, to no avail, Jeffrey St. John has the Hedgehog dropped off in Antoine's plane, because he felt like being a dick today, and Sonic's being all moody and self-reflective while on the ride. Can you imagine being flown off to your life sentence in a plane with a freaking smile etched on it? That's messed up, man. All of Sonic's friends are mad at Sonic supposedly doing what he did, in a comic where robotic doppelgangers and evil selves from other dimensions exist, and apparently they're all unquestioning of Sonic's imprisonment. Even Amy Rose, the girl who made bloody single-person protests about her hero's innocence. The only peeps who still believe he was wrongly convicted are Uncle Chuck and Dulcie the Dragon, who the writers suddenly remembered existed. She just appears through the window like, "Ooh, guys, I just heard the terrible news." Meanwhile, Sonic encounters a bad guy who he fought before, the traitor of the defunct spy network, Sleuth Dog. As sudden as that character's appearance was, things go tits up when some of Robotnik's SWAT bots appear and shoot down the aeroplane. Maybe you guys shouldn't have used the Freedom Fighters aircraft, you bunch of buggers. The plane crashes in the middle of nowhere amid a raging thunderstorm, and everyone appears unconscious. But Sonic sure as hell isn't. He bursts out of the wreckage and proceeds to wordlessly lay the smackdown on the entire squad of SWAT bots. All the while, the narration goes on a spiel about how Sonic knew it was time for no jokes, how his brain was on autopilot, and how he now truly understands the meaning of war. It's so freaking melodramatic and out of nowhere that I can just tell that Ken meant this to be taken with utmost seriousness. These panels would have been much more impactful if they didn't narrate every single part of the fight and just had it be expressed through Sonic's actions and expressions instead. Meanwhile, back in Knothole, King Max is conniving with Drago Wolf about what to do with Sonic after he escaped prison, and they get Jeffrey St. John to go locate the dude and capture him, so as to have his newly restored kingdom be free from the Hedgehog. Yeah, that's not villain talk at all. Sonic is on the run, and he covers his tracks by means of a giant leaf strapped to his butt, and he reminisces, to our benefit, of how the king had been acting really strange lately, not even letting Uncle Chuck investigate the body of Sally. While he's out there, Antoine and Bunny are doing some snooping of their own, trailing Drago because of all the crafty stuff he's been doing lately. Sure enough, they follow him to his Knothole home, where he proclaims to his girlfriend that the king has promised him power and fortune, but Hershey wants nothing to do with that and proclaims that she has already done her part. We don't know what that means yet, but Drago decides to be an abusive dickhole and order her around. Yeah, I didn't need to see this. Bunny and Antoine overhear that Sonic and Jeffrey are being pitted against each other, but then some SWAT bots arrive and easily knock them out. Drago, who seems to be working for both the King and Robotnik, orders the two to be taken to prison in Down Under. Jeffrey St. John and his crew sniff out Sonic with a bunch of not-so-fully evolved Mobians. What the hell is that all about? Not that they matter, because Sonic and him clash in the caves anyway, after Jeffrey tracks him down. Time for a teenager and a grown man to fight over their love over another teenager. It's dumb, it's repetitive, and I hate to see it. While this is going on, King Max holds a meeting and talks mad crap about everyone there. Apparently, despite their heroics, their victories over Robotnik and saving him from the void, he feels that they are completely inadequate. So he decides to reinstate a warlord to overlook the kingdom, and who better fit for that position other than Dr. Robotnik? Oh man, the villain's in Knothole now, their cover is blown! And he's not messing around this time. He completely shatters Rotor's BFG, he's got a glowy arm for some reason, and Uncle Chuck and the others are really in trouble now. I'm not even kidding, this is really serious stuff. But you know what's not serious? Sonic and Jeffrey getting into a fight. There's nobody to break them up from fighting this time, and the two yell at each other about who loved Sally more. On one hand, I'm glad to see that Sonic is outright confirming that he has feelings for her after all these years of speculation. This issue ends with Jeffrey being unconscious in one panel, and then awake again in the next one, to corner the Hedgehog before a waterfall. It seems to be the end of the line, but Sonic decides to take the plunge and leap off the cliff to escape being shot at. Man, they brought back Manny Galen for the art. Actually, let me start there for the review section. First and foremost, I really enjoyed the visuals of this issue. Galen did a good job depicting one of the freedom fighters' most sorrowful moments, and the action scenes, while needlessly narrated, I felt were some of the most iconic images in this arc. The dude's clearly come a long way, and I'm happy to see that his art has improved here. Issue number 48's story, however, has me kind of split. It was half good, and filled with panels that would rock the socks of even the most diehard SatAM fan. And the story involving Sonic being on the run from the corrupt law is a fresh take on the comics formula, but it also had moments that occasionally took me out of it. You know, Sonic's friends, why did they turn on him so quick like that? They just took Sonic's betrayal at face value and didn't even think to suggest a proper trial. It's strange that Ken seemed to be copying story beats from Mike Gallagher's own Metal Madness arc, where Sonic also found himself being accused of killing others, and the other freedom fighters turned on him just as quickly as they did here. But while they were almost violently aggressive at the Hedgehog for his convicted crimes, here it's more sorrowful and contemplating. No doubt due to the last issue's showcase of Sally's later retconned death. Old Jeff continues to be an unlikable jerk who never stops finding ways to accuse Sonic of things and even potentially kill the dude. They always get into a fight, either about accusations or regarding Sally's feelings, and then they are always stopped from fighting by some third party, only for the cycle to continue into the next issue. Well, I for one am tired of these cycles, which makes it all the more surprising when this comic decides to do something new. So, the story is making a rocky start into more serious territory, and I for one welcome it. It doesn't do it right, and sometimes it comes off as completely laughable, but it did get me invested. I really want to see where it goes from here, and I'm pleasantly surprised by how these in-between issues hold up, regardless of shoddy dialogue and corny panels of Hedgehog speeding through robots with a serious look on his face. 6 out of 10. Colour me impressed. Yeah? God damn it, why do I have to be given the bad ones? Issue number 49, Escape from the Floating Island. So, you want to know how Sonic gets out of that life or death situation? How he finds his way out of falling into a perilous waterfall or getting shot by an arrow? Well, wouldn't you believe it if I said that he just takes out his stinking sock, pour out some 5 litres of dust from his shoe and chuck it out at just the right angle that he uses it as a bridge to get him to safety? Yeah, that's what we're going with here. Which one of you idiots thought of that? Who do I gotta blame here? So Sonic escapes his fate in the most f***ing bizarre 70s superhero-esque way, but he's not out of the frying pan yet, as Jeffrey and his squad are still very much on his tail. So when you think about it, that cliffhanger and this entire scenario did nothing but make the reader hold their breath for a month. Holy crap, this art is so inconsistent. Anyway, Dr. Robotnik makes an announcement before the Council of Knothole, and reveals that King Max had secretly been an evil robot double the whole time. The villain even blows it up to shove it in the freedom fighters' faces, because apparently there was a f***ing self-destruction switch on the back of his head. He also brings up that he has a top-secret weapon created to annihilate the entirety of Knothole, and now that he knows the hero's secret base, he is poised to use it. Meanwhile, Dr. Quack is off making a meeting with Snively, because I guess you can just do that, and with another dramatic reveal, we see that, apparently, the Doctor had been under the bad guy's payroll. We also see that Snively is a dick, and that he is holding Quack's family captive. Oh, the humanity! Oh no, look at how sad they look. Snively forces Dr. Quack, for the sake of his family, to, treat the still half-crystallized King Max, but whatever, is too vague for even me to comment on. Elsewhere, Sonic the Hedgehog summons his good old friend Dulcie by whistling at a specific frequency that only his supersonic lungs can achieve, and we get the abrupt and very plot-convenient revelation that dragons are basically living lie detectors, and Dulcie is Sonic's way to being proven innocent. After the two heroes fly into the sunset, once more escaping the clutches of Jeffrey the Skunk Man, we cut back to Drago Wolf and Hershey back on Knothole, and after some more tasteless panels showcasing things I can't believe were illustrated in this comic book meant for children, we get yet another slow burn revelation that Hershey was the one to cut the rope Sally was holding onto. She was just wearing a Sonic costume, which somehow fooled the Hedgehog's lifelong friends, by the way. And it's equipped with, strangely enough, optics to make the wearer see everyone as Snively? So when she was cutting the rope, she thought she was sending Snively to his death? What kind of plot twist is this, and why would Dr. Robotnik make this custom-tailored suit for a random wolf dude? I thought Robotnik hated Mobians, and... you okay, dude? Yeah, I just forgot that this comic has dumb shit like this in it. I'm starting to regret vouching for this writer again. Not the first time we've come to that conclusion, but I'm glad you agree. Where were we? Over in a great crater in Down Under, Antoine and Bunny are placed within a high-security compound, and outfitted with collars rigged to explode if they try anything heroic. Luckily, they are not alone, as Walt and Barbie of the Down Under Freedom Fighters are sharing a cell with them. Man, they're looking rough as hell. What are you guys looking at? What's so horrifying as to warrant a shadowy... Oh! Crockbot! More like cock. We get a random snippet of backstory showcasing how the alligator robot survived the events of the Tales miniseries, including how he hid himself and repaired himself using components from Robotnik's blimp and had his Combot minions build the prison facility. Sounds rough, man, but I guess we'll have to wait until the next issue to see how the heroes plan on inevitably escaping this torture camp. This issue ends with... Oh, what? Dulcie, why did you bring Sonic to Angel Island? Anyway, Knuckles inevitably shows up and beats up Sonic and Dulcie for no reason, and the two spend a page bickering and sharing blows like this didn't get old half a decade ago, and then the fight is broken up by none other than Jeffrey St. John, here to finally end Sonic once and for all. It's Sonic Triple Trouble 2, baby, and boy do I want to kill myself. Sam Maxwell has never been my favourite artist ever, far from it actually, but I think he had improved since his penciling for the Battle Royale special, and his character expressions, though really out there at times, were rather appropriate for the story being told here. Sometimes the surreal imagery took me out of it, but they followed the story well. This crazy, stupid story. Speaking of which, let me tell you guys about how Penders and Gallagher f***ed it up. It's doing its damnedest to appear edgy and intense, which makes sense because the last issue had this in it, but now it's just getting silly. The characters were dealing with real problems last time, thoughts on mortality and how they get out of the whole Robotnik and Drago situations. But the reveals were all handled poorly, very poorly. King Max is unceremoniously revealed to be a doppelganger, Dr. Quack is revealed to be working for the bad guys because they have his family captive, and that goes nowhere. Dulcie being praised for a skill that had never even been brought up in either the comic or the cartoon, which just exists to get Sonic out of the pickle he's in, and that Sonic suit reveal was just plain horse crap. Character writing, ironically, was consistent with previous appearances. Jeffrey could be a little less like an Elmer Fudd parody, always chasing Sonic and somehow failing spectacularly every turn, regardless of his skill, but hey, it was neat seeing a previous villain in the form of Crocbot. Too bad he was entirely different of his established personality. I kinda wish he kept that obnoxious Australian accent and the desire to take over Robotnik's facilities and give them a goofy makeover, because as he was here, I don't know, I just see a generic loudmouthed robot that wants to torture the good guys because bad guys are bad. Not even the inclusion of his design drawn by Spaz was enough to save it, I'm sorry. This story felt like a huge step back compared to the ones before it that were delicately, if haphazardly, setting up the grand finale of the Endgame arc. It's a slow, tiresome narrative that really felt like two stories just smashed together, which makes a whole lot of sense, considering they had two writers who couldn't be any more different. 4 out of 10. Let's move on to an actually good issue now. I don't know what you're talking about, man. I kinda like this Endgame arc. Yeah, the ones you read. How did we end up swapping opinions like this? Not sure either, but we're on the final issue now. You can chip in at any time for issue 50 if you like. I don't want to do this alone. Oh yeah, thanks Holmes. On to the last one then. Man, look at this cover. It's got Sonic and Robotnik duking it out, and nothing else on the cover to spoil the moment. Nice and simple. It's even in the style of the Saturday M Cartoons DVD case. For real, it's way better than the cover the reprint came in. Good golly. I love you, Spaz, but I'm sorry. I really wish he went back to the drawing board with this one. Look at them lips! Issue 50, For Whom the Bell Tolls, or The Big Goodbye in the original print. The finale of the Endgame saga starts off vastly different from the others. It's an extended flashback of Dr. Robotnik's past, during the aforementioned Great War where Mobians fought with Overlanders, these four-fingered human-looking guys. Robotnik, then called Julian Kintobor, may or may not have betrayed his peers and was on the run, but he was found by Uncle Chuck and Sonic's dad Jules, and that's how he got hired to be the warlord of the opposing side of the war. This is all shown to be a dream thought of by Robotnik himself, who appears to be sleeping within a bizarre chamber for some reason. The villain wakes up just in time to torture one of his old Overlander buddies, who looks like an 80s hairstyle gone wrong, and this is all to test out his most feared creation yet, the still unnamed Doomsday Weapon. Snively watches on, but he seems to have a plot of his own. Over on Angel Island, Sonic, Knucks and Jeff are all in a freeway fight. Knuckles is angry at Sonic for supposedly killing Sally, even going so far as to say, "I told her you were no good." Knuckles, what do you know about relationships? You live alone on a rock. Sonic gets out of the situation, and Espio is suddenly here to help clear the air. And then later Dulcie arrives to get some payback for Knuckles knocking her out earlier. So she repeats the plot-convenient fact that dragons cannot tell lies and speaks of Sonic being innocent, and everyone just instantly accepts it. Pfft, Even Jeffrey's over there like, bugger me, why did he have to bring the dragon? Meanwhile, in other parts of Mobius, freedom fighters plot behind Robotnik's forces. Rota and Tails attempt to sneak out of Knothole, only to bump into Drago Wolf. I feel like I've been accidentally calling him Drago. Wait until my father hears about this. And Bunny and Co. at the prison facility? Yeah, they're breaking out. The heroes free the rest of the Down Under freedom fighters, and they proceed to beat the crap out of Crocbot and his stupid tank body, while Antoine and Bunny make to reunite with the others. Crocbot relays the prison break to his boss, who boasts about using his ultimate annihilator. Oh right, that's the Doomsday weapon. Back in Knothole, jeez, I'm saying that a lot, aren't I? Knock knock, this is Knuckles. He, Sonic and Jeffrey come in to save the day, and they beat up all the SWAT-bots and combots in the vicinity. Except for Drago though, he just straight up flees the scene. But not if Sonic can stop him with the power of his creepy hedgehog vision. Also, who keeps saying fight and freedom? Drago Wolf thankfully gets his just desserts though. He meets with Hershey again in the forest, where she disregards congratulating him with her feminine wilies, at least that's what I think the writers were intending here, in favour of beating the crap out of him and kicking the dude in the balls. Yes! I hope this guy never stops being beaten up. It's what he deserves. Our blue hero enters the scene and, finally, after 3 issues of being branded a fugitive, he realises the plot and goes off to confront his arch-enemy in a final battle, who just happens to have woken up from his slumber again. Dr. Robotnik, you're narcoleptic as hell, man, get that checked. The villain goes forward with his plan to activate the ultimate annihilator, while Antoine and Bunny secretly watch on. They supposedly infiltrated the polluted city on a floating carrier, but I'm more confused as to how they crossed an entire continent in less than 6 hours. Do you want to narrate this next part, Auntie-me? You f***ing bet your ass! Sonic enters the city at full speed, tackling just about everything Robotnik throws at him. Snively is just so blown away that, despite all that they have done to make his life miserable, Sonic just does not give up. The Hedgehog proceeds to avoid missiles by doing some stupid fast shit to create after images of himself. I don't even know how that works, but hell, it's freaking cool to see both the hero and the villain use all their skills at their disposal. The Hedgehog plows right through the first line of defense and is confronted by Snively and a bunch of SWAT bots. The former is all decked out in this enhancement suit that grants him steel fists and a weird poison fluid. But even that is not enough to stop this super fast hedgy boy, and he's sent into the drainpipe for his troubles. Sonic also bumps into Bunny and Antoine, who share their knowledge of the deadly weapon and how they plan to blow it up with a miniature nuclear bomb or something? I think. I know what that symbol means. Sonic runs off to buy them time to plant the explosives, even if it means he doesn't come out alive. Bunny and Antoine locate the ultimate annihilator, which is this dinky-looking laser cannon connected to an orbital satellite, but they are too late, and the cannon begins firing. Sonic's not gonna take that lying down, and he enters the control chamber ready to put a stop to the villain's grand plan. However, it seems that the hero is too late. The coordinates are hastily set, and the ultimate annihilator appears to zap the Blue Blur's town and decimate it completely. This makes Sonic lose all inhibitions, and he becomes a raging ball of spikes. The other two trigger their explosives before hastily fleeing the city, while Sonic and Robotnik begin their Mexican standoff while hearing that the ultimate annihilator experienced a system crash and will soon blow away everyone in the war room. Robotnik is going all in, as he has achieved his dream of seeing Knothole destroyed. The two have one final face-off, neither of them holding back, and most of it is without narration, which only makes these pages all the more dynamic. As the climactic fight continues, and Sonic buzzsaws the villain's arm clean off, the ultimate annihilator starts to cause the room to be bathed in a blinding light, Dr. Robotnik in particular being taken in by the ominous pink beams. The entire room is whited out as the beam destroys the building, and the hero and villain appear to perish in the explosion in mid-confrontation. I need to clear my voice. Except not really! The hero seems to have been rescued in the nick of time by a magic ring, perhaps his 1 billionth power ring considering how much this comic likes bringing attention to it, and he is soon treated by the surviving Rota and Dr. Donald Duck. What? But they perished in the big crazy laser blast, right? Well, it is explained that they survived, and that Knothole was only sent 3 hours into the future by a temporal light. What? But it seems that new zones were created from the weapon's destruction. Show don't tell. Dr. Quack explains that he was unintentionally the reason Dr. Robotnik found their safe haven in the first place, and had the fake King Max put in. He also brings up that Snively had been working behind his uncle's back, and made it so Dr. Robotnik was the only target for the ultimate annihilator, which confirms the villain's death at the hands of his own weapon. Pretty ironic, really. He also hears the brilliant news that Sally Acorn survived her ordeal in Robotropolis and was placed in a stasis tube disguised as a memorial until she recovers from her coma, though hearing this is enough to encourage the Hedgehog to get out of bed and go see her. Also, I'm expecting a lot of I'm sorries from his friends for not defending him in court earlier, but not even the director's cut addresses that. Sonic goes over to the memorial pod, where Sally's looking a bit like Snow White right now, and like how it turned out in that film, Sally is quickly revived by Sonic finally confessing his love for her in an earnest and heartwarming way, and the two share a dramatic and corny but long-awaited kiss under the sun. It's all well and good, but I'm going to move on from this and talk about the last page now. The finale of Endgame finishes up with one last page and a quick overview to connect all those loose plot threads together. Sonic and Sally begin their romance, King Max and Quack's family are shown to be alright, Hershey was accepted back into Knothole while Jeffrey rethinks his life, and all seems happy and well that the bad guys are all put behind bars, except for Snively, who is still out there somewhere. And that's a pretty conclusive end to what would soon no longer be the last issue of this comic book series. Wait, have we been talking to Snively this whole time? You must be blind. It took you long enough to notice. I mean, of course I noticed, but he's from, like, a different dimension or something, right? It's different. Or was it a previous version of this dimension? Honestly, I can't tell.
It's not easy to give you a hint. Hi, I'm Omochow.
What the heck? Omochow! Your weird abilities never cease to amaze me. Well, there's our ticket out of here, but first, let me finish up this review. Issue number 50, or in this case the reprint, was filled with both good and bad qualities. On one hand, the amount of cheese on display, and the rather inconsistent story, not to mention all of the different artists who were brought along to work on this, made the finale stumble just a little bit. Don't get me wrong, the last third was definitely worth the wait, at least I thought so, but it could have been built up better. The fight between Sonic, Jeffrey and Knuckles proves to be a bit of old tat, but I liked the way that they all teamed up to fight the bad guys in Knothole, even if the whole battle looked pretty surreal. I could just very well address the contributions of each penciler in this issue, so I'm gonna do just that. Slap me and call me a predictable Paul, but my faves were those done by Mawini and Patrick Spaziente, drawing the finale and the Great War flashback and final fight, respectively. They really got the skills to make the appropriate moods, be it intense or delicate ones of a slower pace. Dave Manak came back to draw Hershey beat up Drago Wolf. I still felt the inclusion of an abusive relationship was a tad too jarring when juxtaposed with the slightly grim yet still light-hearted adventures of a blue hedgehog, but it was really nice to see the bugger get his comeuppance. Sam Maxwell's art of Sonic blasting through SWAT bots was pretty fun, along with Nelson Ortega's. Ken Pender's art is, like, the only one that was straight up trash. The bots were drawn fine, but anything organic just looks like a fever dream waiting to happen. There were a couple of new pages added to the director's cut that were lacking in the original print. This includes the pages of Robotnik torturing one of his old Overlander buddies, the entire Down Under prison subplot and Bunny and Antoine's antics, extended pages of Drago getting beaten up, curiously enough, and many pages of the final showdown were shortened. The original issue must have really felt underdeveloped if readers only had this to go by. As for character writing, barring a couple of dudes left in the background, I think everybody got a moment in the spotlight. Bunny and Antoine essentially became the most useful members of the group. Robotnik had a whole prologue establishing his past before he got killed off, and Sally spent a large number of issues as a frozen popsicle, waiting to be awoken up by the hero. That might have been a bit tasteless. Ken Penders, why do you keep doing this to our girl? And speaking of Ken, as much as I liked the way Dr. Robotnik went out like that and officially died in-universe, the real-life reason, as told from the horse's mouth, kind of rubs me the wrong way. Supposedly, the writer had an issue with Robotnik as the main villain and wished to kill him off to replace him with some other bugger. This is the bugger, by the way, this strange DC-looking bad guy. It does take a few epic points from the climax of this arc, but it doesn't stop it from being an impressive milestone in the history of the comic book. The execution worked, and I can say that better than any of the other issues. Also, I didn't know how to segue to this, but did you know that future main writer Carl Bollers wrote parts of this issue? I certainly didn't until now. Anyway, Endgame ended on a really high note, both because it's genuinely good, and because you can't really go any lower than issues 46 and 49. It may have retconned a few questionable plot points made by a hack writer, as well as creating contrived reasons for the heroes to get out of sticky situations. I'm looking at you, truthful dragon talk. But it was otherwise a really enjoyable read. It gets a clear 8 out of 10. Dare I say I'd recommend this over the previous issues, it's so good. And there we go! All 5 issues regarding All 5 issues regarding Endgame are done. Anyway, Snively, we did what you asked for. We shared your heroics to the world. Now if you'll excuse me, we're gonna head back through the portal thingy, back to our home. I can't hear what you're saying. I think you left it on mute. No, it's not the microphone. Your interface must be tell us. Make it quick. Try rebooting the system. You gotta switch it on and off like a normal person. Maybe blow on the cartridge. Type it, bitch. Well, time to head on back. I bet Hexbot and Flare are missing me already. Come on, Auntie. Oh, yeah, you probably want to stick around with that guy and find out what the deal is with your weird parody bad guy dimension. Just once, can you not be self-referential? Look, this past year or so, being the sidekick to your shitty little nerd channel, it's been more fun than I first assumed. I started out hating you for giving unjust hate towards former creators, and way back then I certainly didn't want a dumber version of me to make a fool of himself online. Come again? But I've since seen that some people in the industry really are irredeemable, but I'm glad I talked some sense into you. You've grown a little as a reviewer, I guess. But it's not for me anymore. I've got to go elsewhere, and find my calling, preferably in my own dimension. I thought it was lost until now. So I guess you're saying your planet needs you? Oh, don't you start again with those stupid memes. Until we meet again, dude. I hope you discover what you're looking for. Yeah. Well, off you go, you stupid goober. Auntie?
Look! I will eat.
About time you return.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm back.